Good morning and welcome to Rogue Supercars. My name is Mike. If this is your first time stopping by, please hit the subscribe button. So after having the car for a few days, I want to go over the 10 things I dislike about the car. I did the 10 things I love about the car. Now we're going to look at the dislikes. Now, number 10 on my list for dislikes of this car. And, you know, once again, this is subjective because I am not fond of white cars in general. And the only reason being is, once again, I just think they're overdone. There's too many of them. A few years ago, BMW went to like a white, gray, and black palette. And almost every other car manufacturer seemed to do the same thing. That being said, I do think the white car looks really good if you black everything out. So if you just do a white and black theme, many of the people have commented, I do need to get the black chrome grille or the black grille. We are working on that. There's some issues with BMW. So once again, number 10 on the list is the color of the car. Okay guys, up to number 9 on the list of the things I dislike about the BMW M8. It's going to be the seat belts. And once again, these are little things about the car. And the seat belt is, on the M3 CS, the M3 Competition, they did the embroidered M colors on the seat belts. The M8 being a flagship car for BMW, you think that should have came standard on the car. I mean, I think it should have came standard. But the other big gripe about it is, in my seating position on the car, reaching back to get the seatbelt is a little difficult for me. Once I get the seatbelt in place with the seating position in the car, the seatbelt rides pretty high up on my neckline, which is kind of annoying. I do have a pad in my 5 Series to bring it down a little bit, but on the CS it sat a little bit lower. Now I can adjust that by bringing my seat up a little bit, but I don't like that seating position. I like to be lower in the car. So number 9 on the list are the seat belts in this car. Okay guys, moving up to number 8 are going to be the back seat of this car. Now, this is a 2+2 configuration, so the back seats of these cars are pretty much useless. There's not that much space when you put the seats all the way back. Now, I did have the wife in here the other day in the back seat because we took my mother-in-law out. She's 90 years old. We moved the seat all the way forward, and my wife fit in the back seat, but it was funny to watch her get in and out, and it wasn't as comfortable as it looked like. So number 8 on the list was the lack of seat space in the back of the M8. Okay guys, we're up to number 7 on the list, and number 7 is going to be the placement of the start-stop switch on the M8. I believe most of the newer BMWs have moved the switch from the dash, where the switch used to be right about here, that was on the M3 CS and also my 5 Series. They have moved it down now to here. And then once again, it's just out of memory retention. I'm always used to going for the dash opposed to here. So that makes it number 7 on the list of things I dislike about the M8. Okay guys, moving up the list on to number 6. It's going to be the digital gauge cluster of the M8. They've gone to a design, as you can see, where you have the speedometer on the left, the rev counter on the right, and when you rev it up, the rev counter moves up and down vertically, opposed to, say, the analog or traditional round dials. I do like the more traditional analog dial or the analog look with the circular speedometer and rev counter. I just think it works better. And then when you go into M mode, once again, I mean, it's nice looking because it's digital, but you can see the rev counters move up and down on the side. So number 6 on the list was a digital gauge cluster. Alright guys, we're up to number 5 on the things I dislike about the BMW M8. And that's going to be the storage in the car, especially in the door cards. So this car does have more storage than the M3 CS, but the M3 CS door cards were a lot more usable. So for example, this bottle of water, if I want to sit in this door card, it barely fits right here. Anything bigger than that simple bottle of water simply just does not fit. And I do drink Gatorade, and the bottles are too big to fit in the side, nor will they fit in the cup holders. So if you look down the side, I mean, there's not much space in the door cards. So I just wish BMW would have put more space in the door cards, or just a little bit wider opening to handle a bigger drink when you're driving, especially if I'm running on a rally or driving a long distance. It just makes it easier to store. So that was number 5 on the list. Okay guys, moving up to number 4 on the list. And that, once again, is gonna be inside the car. And it's gonna be the shift paddles. So the shift paddles here, the up and down paddles, are very small. They don't stick out much above the car steering wheel. On the M3 CS, they were nice, thin, and slender, and longer. They came up to about here, which actually looked better on the car. These are very small shift paddles, and they're similar to the ones that I have in my regular 5 Series. Now, once again, these are all very minimal things about the car, and at the flagship level of this car, I think it should have had a better shift paddle, at least a carbon fiber one to go with the interior. Okay guys, moving up to number 3 on the list, and that's going to be the steering wheel of the car. And I'm comparing it what I'm used to on the M3 CS. And even though a lot of people complained about the M3 CS steering wheel, about how thick it was, but the Alcantara wheel was very nice. I thought the grip was better on the Alcantara, and also I liked a little bit of a thicker wheel than this. This wheel is very thick, it's just not as thick as the Alcantara wheel. Now, BMW makes a couple aftermarket wheels through the M Performance line for the car, except this has a heated steering wheel, and 2 of the steering wheels that I like don't accept the heated steering wheel piece. So I don't see me in the near future changing that wheel at all. I'll probably keep that wheel on the car for the life of the car. So number 2 on the list is going to be the heating and ventilation system of the car. I have yet to drive this in its super hot weather, but on the warm days we did have, this car has only 4 air vents in the car. 2 thin ones here and 2 on either side of the dash. Now, if you put the car in full max air conditioning, it does blow very well, but it's super loud and it's kind of crazy. But when I use my auto buttons here and set the temperature, this V8 gets so hot, and it seems to have the heat come through the cabin, and it just doesn't feel comfortable enough unless I have the blowers on fairly high. So I set it like 68 degrees in the car, and it just has a hard time keeping that under control. Now, once again, if I go full max on the car, it does cool the car off. So it's going to be interesting to see in the summertime how well it actually tries to keep the car cold. And okay guys, we're up to number 1 on the things I dislike about this car, and that's going to be the ZF transmission. Yes, the 8-speed transmission. So let's talk about the 8-speed transmission in this car. Yes, it's a very fast shifting transmission. Yes, it's an automatic, so it's nice and comfortable to drive at low speeds. But with this sports car, and if you look at all the other sports cars, the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris, and even the Porsches, they all have dual clutch or single clutch transmissions. And even in the M3 CS, the dual clutch transmission, I absolutely loved. I mean, when you drive a dual clutch transmission, or even a single clutch, it's just the feel it gives you, the rawness of the car. The ZF transmission just makes it a lot more civil, which I understand, and people are going to use it and cruising, and probably the age range of the people that own this car like that. So even with the setting button here, which you can move it up and down 3 different levels for the quickness and firmness of the shifts, it just does not give you the hit in the back that I would like to feel from this car. So even at its highest setting when I'm driving the car, I just don't get that lovely punch in your lower back when you shift the gears. Now, as far as the transmission goes, it does work. I mean, if I do put it in comfort mode and drive, it just feels like a normal car. It is very compliant. And sometimes on the DCT, when you were starting out in first gear or taking off from a light, if you didn't modulate the gas pedal right on a DCT, it could get jerky when you were taking off at lower gears. So overall, on those top 10 things I dislike about the car, those were all small, nitpicky things. So none of those items would have stopped me from purchasing the car. I still love it. So the more I've driven this car, the more comfortable I've become with it. and it is a really wonderful car. I mean, it's kind of amazing on how much power this car has, and it's going to be interesting to see when I tune the car if there's going to be a noticeable difference on that also. All right, guys, thank you for stopping by Rogue Supercars. Please hit the subscribe button and the like button. The channel is growing, and thank you for your help with making that happen. I appreciate it, and until the next video, I'll see you then.